So tonight we are here learning on Zoom. Due to the storm last night, there is no electricity yet at ETC. So we're going to start our class on Zoom, and I hope you have electricity. I see some electricity in some of your houses, and everybody should get light and only goodness and happiness. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Chayei. Parsha's Chayei obviously is a Parsha which relates in great detail the story of the marriage of Sarah's son, Yitzchak. As the Parsha begins, after Sarah gave birth to Yitzchak, she lived 127 years altogether, and she passed away while Yitzchak was still not married. And Avram is obviously taking over the responsibility. I shouldn't say taking over because he was the father, but he's taking alone the responsibility to marry his son Yitzchak, as the expression goes, to help him find a shidduch. And that's what he's doing in this parsha, which we're going to have a very detailed discussion in regarding to this wedding. The wedding is such an important wedding. This is the wedding which takes the life of Avram, the first Jew, and introduces it to the future. So obviously, Yitzchak has to find the right wife to be married to. And the one who is appointed as the emissary to bring that marriage together is the servant of Abraham, which we know his name is Eliezer. And he goes out of a journey after being very clearly directed by his master, Abraham, that no way do I want my son to marry any of the Canaanite women. He sends him to his family. His family lived in Haran, which was outside of Israel. The potential groom, Yitzchak, does not leave Israel. He can't leave Israel. And Eliezer is being given the challenge or the opportunity or the responsibility to find a girl which never met that boy and chose to leave her homeland in Haran and to come get married to him in the land of Israel, which was then called the land of Canaan. And Eliezer embarks to that mission. There is a miraculous travel taking place, as the verse describes in one of the mentionings regarding Eliezer's mission. Thus, to have a Chumash can look it up. Chapter 24 is the chapter in this week's Parsha which discusses in length that marriage. And when it comes to chapter 24, verse 42, is where Eliezer says these words, Ve'ovoi hayoim Elo'oin. He says, I arrived today at the spring. This is the spring of water we met Rivka. And as Rashi explains, and Rashi writes, Hayoim yotzosi ve'hayoim basi. That Eliezer is saying, I said that on my journey today, and as I said, I miraculously arrived here today, the same day, at that spring. Even though that in general, to the journey from Israel, and especially where Avram lived, from Hebron specifically, to Haran, normally it takes much more than one day, but nevertheless, he was able to get here with a type of travel which is known as kfitzat aderech. It's like skipping over the road. You don't even know how you get here, and you're there. There's actually a joke. I don't know if it's a joke, a story I once read that there was a Jew who was offered a shidduch for his son with the daughter of a very wealthy man who lived in a faraway city. And after looking into the shidduch, the Jew liked the idea, and it made his way to go travel to that city so they can make an engagement party, alachaim. And along the way, they were stopping at a certain inn to relax and to regain their strength to continue for that far journey. In that place, there were other Jews who stayed there in the same inn. So this Jew who's traveling for the sake of his daughter's future shidduch relates the purpose of his trip. And when he hears that they are on the way to get engaged with this mishpacha, so this Jew in the inn tells him, "Oh, I know this family. I will suggest you to stay away from them." And he starts mentioning a bunch of issues that the father has, the bride has. Bekitzer, he tells him this is not a shidduch for you. As I respond, the Jew says, "Aha, now I understand why it was so important for Eliezer to reach the same day from Israel to Haran. That Avram had to activate this miraculous travel plan called Fitzat Aderech, to jump over, to skip over the road." I understand, he says, because if Eliezer would have stopped in all these different inns along the way in telling people that it's going to meet maybe Rivka or Besuel, obviously each one would express their negative opinions about the Shidduch. It would have never happened. So Hashem miraculously made it so that I arrived there quickly. So I had no chance to speak to anybody. I met this girl and I'm ready to go. This is what the Yid responded, which is just a story about shidduchim and giving us again the idea of how much it is important to you know, to be clear about shidduchim and how things develop. But anyway, what happens next in this parsha is when it comes to chapter 24. Chapter 24 is, like I said, the chapter which discusses the story of the shidduch. So the story begins by appointing Eliezer to become the messenger of bringing the shidduch about. So let's read the first few verses. As the Torah says in chapter 24, verse 1, Va'avrom zokim b'bayomim, v'Hashem be'erech Avrom b'koel. Avram was old. According to the commentaries, he was 140 years old. And he, Hashem blessed him with everything. Vayomer Avram el avdis kan beisoy. So Avram says to his servant, doesn't say the name, but we know that his servant was Eliezer, which is the elder member of his household. Hamoishel bekol hashaloi, the one who is in charge of everything that Avram has. He asked him, Simno yotcho tachas yerechi, place your hand under my thigh. This is basically for the purpose of taking a shvuah, for taking an oath. So he needed him to hold into something which is considered holy, a mitzvah object, and that was the only mitzvah object at that time. And what does he take an oath? Says verse 3, and I will bind you by an oath to God, the God of earth, the God of heaven. And the oath is Loitikach Isha Livni Mibnoi Saknani Asher Anoichi Yoshev Bekirboi. Do not take a wife for my son from among the daughters of the Canaanites in whose meads I live. I don't want you to take a girl from the neighborhood. Rather, he says, verse 4, Ki el arzi del moladeti telech, but rather instead, you must go to my father's land, which is Choron, the place where my family still lives, which is Choron, and take a wife from among them for my son. Abram was away from Choron for many years, right? Nevertheless, this is the family that he wants to marry. Is not girls from Canaan, but only from Choron. And Eliezer says, "Vayomer Elo v'eved ulai lo toivo isho leleches achai loretz azois ehoshe voshi v'bincho loretz asher yotzaso misham." So he says, perhaps the woman will not wish to follow me to the land. Will I take your son back to the land from which you departed? In other words, he tells them, after all, it seems that you prefer that I take a wife for Yitzchak from among your family, right? From your family members, rather from among the people whom you have been living with and influencing for this past 65 years. Then, if no one wants to follow me, then perhaps I should be following, taking your son there. And Avram says, absolutely not. And he tells them, you're going to have an angel who's going to help you and guide you. And God willing, you're going to make it. You're going to get a shidduch for my son from the place called Choron. So even though the Torah does not even mention his name yet, but doesn't go into any specifications and any details, who is this man? Who is this personality which is being given the mission to bring a shidduch for Yitzchak? The Torah uses the expression Avdoi Skan Beisoi Amoishel Bechol Shaloi. Avdoi means his servant. So Eliezer was the servant, as we know, for Abraham. Skan Beisoi, the elder member in his household. Hamoishel Bechol Shaloi, who was in charge of all that he owned. This is what he says about him. Avdoi, to be the servant of Avraham, is obviously a tremendous quality. Matter of fact, when Eliezer introduces himself to the family in Choron after meeting Rivka, so as you see later in verse 34, the way he introduced himself, the opening remark is, Eved Avram Anoich. I am a servant of Avram. The Talmud uses an expression, Eved Melech, Melech. The servant of a king also carries in him some level of royalty, like the king himself. So being the king of Avram, obviously this represents and reflects a great quality which was earned by Eliezer. But in the Torah, you're not going to find much more about who this Eliezer was. But nevertheless, in the Medrash and in other sources of our sages, we do find amazing descriptions in regard to Eliezer. For example, on this word, Zekan Beisoi, the elder of his house, says the Medrash that Eliezer had he had the look of his face was very similar, as they say in Russian, Pachorja, to Avram. The light, the holiness, the sanctity, which radiated from Avram Avinu's face, was also recognized on Eliezer's face, even though Eliezer was not a relative to Avram. He still looked like Avram. He carried the same holiness on his face. The Medrash says, Hamoishel bekol hashaloi. He ruled all over all that he has. Says the Medrash, Shalit beyitzroi kamoishoi. Eliezer was ruling his evil inclination. He was controlling his evil inclination, just like his master Avram was. So you can see what we're talking about. Even more so, the Gemara in Yuma places Eliezer in the same line of scholarship than the rest of the matriarchs. The Gemara says in Yuma that Avram was Zokin the Yoshe Yeshiva, an elderly man, sitting and studying, because it says the Avram Zokin. Yitzchak, says the Gemara, was also Zokin the Yoshe Yeshiva, an elderly man who was dwelling in the yeshiva, in the academy of study. It says, Vayehi Kizoke Yitzchak. Yaakov was obviously an elder one who studied, like it says, the Eini Yisrael Kovdem Yizoiken, we attribute old age to Yaakov, but he was still sitting and studying. And the Gemara continues, Eliezer, Eved Avram, Zokin v'Yoshe b'Yeshiva Ava. Eliezer, the servant of Avram, is also, he was old, like it says in the verse, Zekan Beisoy, the elder of his household that we just read before, and he was sitting and learning. He was teaching. That's what it means. Am Moishel Bekol Shaloi, says the Gemara, Moishel B'Teiras Rabbi. He was an expert, an absolute expert in all the teachings of his Rebbe Avram. He knew and he understood everything what the Rebbe says, and he's the one who shared it with many others. As it continues, Damesek Eliezer, Shedoile Umashke Mitoiras Rabbi Shalacherim. He was the one who taught and delivered the many teachings of his Rebbe Avram to everybody else. He was the greatest of Avram's spiritual students. And he shared and transmitted that knowledge to all other people who lived in his generation. Until when he passed away, the Gemara even says that Eliezer is from the few 7 who entered Gan Eden alive, which is a tremendous value that we don't find from too many others. Even though in his own personal genealogy, some Midrashim would say that Eliezer was the son or the grandson of Nimrod. When Avram was saved miraculously from the fiery furnace, it was Nimrod who gave Avram a gift, his child or his grandchild, named Eliezer. And he is the Eliezer who became the faithful servant of Avram Avinu. So we can understand what kind of important person he was. He was a shliach. He was fully devoted and one with his master Avram. And here comes the story what I would like to discuss tonight. What happens is Eliezer comes to Haran with the story of the water. Everybody knows the story. He meets the girls, right? He meets the girl, Rivka, then he meets the father. And the Torah tells us every detail again what happened when Eliezer met Lavan and Rivkas and Besuel. And he tells them everything what involved around that mission. He even says this, the fact that when he was given the mission, he told his master, Avram, what would happen perhaps if the guru does not want to follow me. And here comes something very interesting. If you take a look on verse 39. And he says, and he explains to them that he told his master that she might not want to come over. So the verse is written as follows. Verse 39. V'omar v'oimar el adoini. I said to my master, Ulai loy teilecha isha acharai. Perhaps, maybe, the girl is not going to want to go after me. Meaning, I find a girl and I tell her that the boy is in Israel, and she might say, "Fine, but I'm not ready to leave Israel. I want to stay here in Haran." And he uses the word ulai. What does ulai mean in Hebrew? Perhaps, maybe. Usually the word ulai is spelled Aleph, Vav, Lamed, Yud. Ulai. You look on the verse inside, verse 39, and ulai is only spelled Aleph, Lamed, Yud. There is no Vav, which in the written scroll, originally there is no vowels either. So you can read it, Elai. But Elai would mean what? To me. Not to lie, perhaps, but Elai, to me. Says Rashi, so you should know, says Rashi, that the verse was written specifically with a missing vav, because there is actually a story behind this word ulai that actually involves the story of a lie to me. Because what happened? Says Rashi that Eliezer also had a daughter. And he was looking for reasons that Avram should might express interest in Eliezer's daughter to marry his son. And that's what he said, Ulai, Elai, to me, kind of indicating, to me, you can be the Shidduch. Says Rashi that Avram told them, Bni Baruch, ve'ata arur, ve'en arur midabek bebaruch. My son is Baruch, means blessed. Ata, you are cursed. He tells his son very bluntly, his servant. And a cursed person cannot cling with a blessed person. In other words, you are a descendant of Canaan, the son of Ham, and I cannot have you marry my daughter. Like we learned, if you remember in Parshat Noach, that after Noach left the ark, he planted a vineyard. Afterwards, he drank the wine, and he got drunk. While he was drunk, he was lying in his tent with a uncovered body, with no modesty. And Ham, his son, conducted himself to his father also in an unmodest manner. And when Noach woke up from the sleep, when he came back to his senses after the wine, and he realized what Ham did to him, so he cursed them that you fourth son Canaan is going to be cursed, like it says in chapter 9 in the book of Noach. Arur Canaan, Canaan is cursed. Eved avadim yelecha. He should be a servant to his brothers. And then Noach also gave a blessing for Shem, and he said, Baruch Hashem Elokei Shem, veyehi Canaan Eved lamo. Canaan will be a servant to Shem. So therefore says Avram to Eliezer, you and your daughter who have descendants of Canaan, you are included in the category of Arur, cursed. Me, Avram, and my son Yitzchak, which are descendants of Shem, are included in the category of Baruch, Baruch Hashem Elokei Shem. And the blessed cannot associate with the cursed. which is actually Rashi brings from the Medrash. In other words, imagine Avram is having a daughter. She's for sure a very nice girl, modest, beautiful, God-fearing. After all, she grew up in the home that she got the education of Avram Avinu. And when Avram is speaking about his desire to find a wife, Eliezer is trying to let his teacher know, his master know, that he wants to have that daughter for Yitzchak, my holy master's son. And the same Eliezer, who is called Damesek Eliezer, the one who taught everybody his teacher's Torah, and is called Eved Avram, the servant of Avram. He is the CEO of the house, this amazing guy who teaches monotheism and emunah, hospitality, achnasat orchim. A man with a lot of credit is Eliezer. What does he get a response from Avram? You are cursed. Come from the sons of Ham. Oru Knan. Ein Oru Misdabik Bebodus. A cursed one cannot cleave to the blessed ones. For sure, Avram appreciated Eliezer, but he tells him, I'm sorry, our families cannot be united. And the obvious question when you read a Rashi like this, you wonder, listen, after all, Eliezer served Avram so many years with such devotion. He was spiritually connected to Avram, sitting in his yeshiva, teaching his teachings, his lessons, controlling his evil inclination like Avram. Look, the best candidate as a shaliach to bring the shidduch, he also chose Eliezer. Isn't it the greatest disgrace, embarrassment to hear at this point that you should know you and your family are cursed and therefore you can't join my family who are blessed? Does that make sense to use such bold words at such a time? We'll discuss it. But I want to just go back for a moment to another question. This very Sheila, the question that Eliezer tells them that he asked Avram, Ulai loy toive oisha, maybe she's not going to want, is actually written in the beginning of the Parsha when Eliezer is telling it to Avram. In other words, what we read in Rashi was when the Eliezer is repeating what his conversation with Avram to Rivka's family. But there is the original story when it takes place in Israel. And what does Eliezer tell Avram then? Take a look on verse 5, chapter 24. What does verse 5 say? We read it before. Eved, and the Eved, the servant, said to Avram, Ulai loy perhaps this guru is not going to want to follow me. The word Ulai is spelled properly. Aleph, Vav, Lamed, Yud. And then, like all the commentaries are asking, if the word Ulai comes to indicate a hint by Eliezer, wanting Eliezer to what? To marry his son to him, Eli. So then, the first time the word Ulai is mentioned, we should be missing the Vav. Not only when Eliezer is repeating that statement to Lavan. Why is there originally the word Ulai written like a full word of Ulai, properly mitavav? Many commentaries are asking this question, and they give answers. One of the answers which I like is the answer which is being given by the Maharal of Prague in his commentary on the Chumash called Gur Aryeh. And he says, very simple, he says, why doesn't Rashi tell us there? Why is it not written there? When Eliezer speaks to Avram, why it does not say Ulai missing a Vav? So he says, because really, what did Eliezer actually say? Eliezer actually said, he said the word Ulai. He did not say Eli. How can you say to Avram, I'm saying Eli, when Avram says don't? Rather, what the Torah is teaching us, what was the intention of Eliezer? Eliezer was looking for excuses that maybe she's not going to come because he was hoping that by explaining why she might not come, Avram will reconsider and say, you know what, in that case, let your son be the, let your daughter, I'm sorry, Eliezer, your daughter, be the wife of Yitzchak. And the truth is, Avram understood that that's what Eliezer thinks by saying Ulai, because for the very fact that he says Ulai loisoiva is already a sign to Avram that he's questioning because he has some agenda here. What's the proof? The proof is that later in the story, for example, Eliezer meets Rivka and he gives a gift. He doesn't even ask you what's her name, who she's from. Says Rashi, because he was so sure and relying that the merit of Avram is going to give him the right wife. So if you trust Avram, why aren't you trusting him now? You say, Ulai loitoive, maybe she's not going to want. So Avram understood that the word Ulai, when he says Ulai, he actually means Eli, but he doesn't want to say it. So in other words, even when originally the word Eli is not mentioned, the very fact that it says such a question, Ulai loitoive, is already letting us know that the intention of Eliezer by saying Ulai loy toive is to find an excuse that Avram should tell him, let my son marry your daughter. So that's why it's enough if it says Ulai. The very word Ulai is already reflecting that this is his thoughts. But here in the other end, when Eliezer is telling a Besuel the story, it's important because they're not going to understand when he says Ulai, it means that Eli. Therefore, it tells them clearly that I intended Eli. The not mentioned. Ula is written like Eli. And what I meant that I wanted this boy. And the only reason I'm not getting him, so you should, because Avram said the boy blessed. And when you understand that this boy blessed, you better take this action. Don't crouch around. It's important for you. But again, let's go back to our original question. Our original question is, why is he being so sharp, so bold, playing Avram, telling Eliezer, you are cursed, I am blessed? Is this how we answer to our servant? Find an excuse. Something should not embarrass him. Find an excuse. Maybe tell him why the guru is not for my son. Especially Avram Avinu is involved in love, in friendship, in hospitality. Why is he answering him so sharp, so bluntly? Not sensitivity, seemingly. This is the question that we have. This is the question we have. So the truth is that I will start with a little story. This story is a story which has to do with tonight. Tonight, on the Jewish calendar, is the 20th of Cheshvan. And in the year Tav Reish Chaf Aleph, which is 163 years ago, tonight, the 20th of Cheshvan celebrates the birthday of the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Sholem Dov Ber. He was born to his father. His father was the fourth Rebbe, known as the Rebbe Maharaj of Shmuel, and he was later the Rebbe after his father passed away, and they call him the Rebbe Rashab, the acronym of Rabbi Sholem Dov Ber. That was his name. Sholem Ber, that was his name. All the Sholem Bers in Lubavitch are named after originally the Rebbe Rashab. His name was Sholem Dov Ber. So one of the stories of his early years when he became Rebbe, which is a story which our Rebbe used to share number of times. There was a Jew who came in for a private audience to the Rebbe Rashab, and he asked his blessing for something very serious that was necessary for him to have the Rebbe invoke great mercy on his behalf. But unusually, the response of the Rebbe Rashab to this man was, "I'm sorry, I cannot help you. There's nothing I can do about it." When the Jew heard it, he walked out of the room of the Rebbe Rashab, crying very bitterly. The Rebbe told me he can't help me. And I walks around all crying and emotional outbreak. He's being seen by the Rebbe Rashab's brother. He had a brother, his name was Reb Zalman Aaron. They called him the Razo. And Razo went over and he was acquiring what's crying, what's going on. So he said what happened and what the Rebbe responded to him. So Reb Zalman Aaron walked into his brother's room and he tells him it was the early years when the Rebbe Rashab became Rebbe. And he said, I don't understand. Is this proper conduct? A Yid comes and asks you for a blessing, and you answer him, I cannot help you, to the point that this guy is running around brokenheartedly, crying so bitterly, sobbing from so much sorrow. Why are you doing it? The Rebbe listened, he heard, and he says, you know what? Call him back in. The guy walks back in, and the Rebbe Rashab gives him a beautiful blessing. And not only gives him a blessing, as the story goes, the blessing was actually materialized. So the Rebbe is asking a question. I don't understand. Why originally did the Rebbe Rashab refuse to help this Jew? And speaking to him so sharply, to the point that he was literally breaking his heart. Let's say he can't help him, try to inspire him, try to uplift him, give him some words of chizuk, of strength. Like the Gemara says in Brachot, even if there is a sharp sword placed on your neck, don't hold yourself back from seeking for mercy. Tell him those words. Tell him, ask Hashem, David, it's all going to be okay. Don't we have these situations many times? People ask us for help and we can't help them, but we at least try to encourage them, to inspire them, to motivate them. Why is he telling them, I can't help you, knowing that it's going to break this person's heart, which actually, as the story goes, it did. So the Rebbe says something very, very fundamental in this whole concept of blessings. The Rebbe says, when a Yid comes and he asks for a blessing from the Rebbe Rashab, at that time when he came in for asking the blessing, due to his condition spiritually, due to his condition, the way he behaved, the way he was, what was expected from him, so to speak, his behavior did not allow him to be qualified for such a big blessing. He wasn't a vessel for it. He wasn't a vessel for it. I can't help you because it can't contain the blessing you need. When that person left with a broken heart at this bitter situation, pouring his heart out of God to God, that made them into a new phenomenon. And that new phenomenon is now able to receive. He became a recipient for that new blessing. And therefore he said, now you can come in. You can come in. This is the story. The story teaches us that sometimes words of severity is not, God forbid, words of judgment. It actually contains the positive purpose to re-establish a connection, a relationship, to make this person capable of receiving the blessing that Hashem has promised them. That's what happened to the Chassid. And I believe that we can also say that that's what happened to Eliezer. His very strong words, you are cursed and you cannot connect yourself to the ones who are blessed. This actually took Eliezer and it transferred him from a state of being considered cursed to become one who is blessed. Not blessed enough to marry Avram's son, but after all, maybe it only impacted him, but not his daughter. Or maybe it was a sign from heaven that Yitzchak has to marry Rivka. Regardless what the reason is, one thing is clear that that very bold statement, which seems to us, and it was probably a big embarrassment to Avram, to Eliezer, actually transformed the whole situation. Where do we see the transformation of the whole situation? So let's first take again the scenario. Let's think about Eliezer again, the most faithful person to Avram. Spiritually worked for him, and even physically. Remember, Parsha Lech Lecha? They went fighting the kings. The verse says it took 318 people to fight with them. The Gemara says it's not 318, it was one man, that the name and the letters of his name has the same numerical value as 318. Who is the man? Eliezer. He was the one, the only person who went fighting together with Avram and to save the situation there. He lived like a shliach. He has a perfectly good order. Who is better than Eliezer knowing what kind of good boy Yitzchak is? After all, Eliezer also was raised and spent a lot of time in the home of Yitzchak. And then all of a sudden, his old plans are shattered to pieces. Avram calls them and he said, I want you to give me an oath that you're only going to bring me a girl from what's it called? From Haran. I don't want anybody here. Right? So he's trying one more time. Maybe. And Abraham says, no, 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 no. You are cursed. He takes it and he continues with his mission. He doesn't question anything. He doesn't ask questions. He doesn't stop serving Avram. He continues following the shlichut. If Eliezer would have any personal interest, he can obviously come back and say, I'm sorry, I couldn't find the right girl. First girl I met was limping. The second one was blind. The third one was a tipcha, was a foolish girl. Even though I found a nice girl, she doesn't want to come to Israel, doesn't want to go marry somebody she doesn't even know who he is. And like Avram told them, if she doesn't want to come, you're going to be exempt. You don't have to go crazy. You're going to take someone from here, the daughters of Oner, of Eshkol, Mamre. And then maybe Eliezer will also have a chance to bring up again the idea that it's for his daughter. But not only is Eliezer not trying to challenge the Shidduch, instead of it, he does everything possible to make it happen. He maximizes his mission. He takes 10 camels, he takes jewelry, he takes all the good from his servant, from his master's house, to make it possible in any way that his mission should be successful. Not only does, when he has the camels waiting by the water, he davens for the success of the shidduch. You know what it means to daven on behalf of somebody that maybe impacted you? Imagine you daven for a good shidduch for a girl who clearly did not rejected your son. Will be daven for his success? Not so simple. And here comes Eliezer, puts himself completely on the side. And he says, I am not worthy, and I'm not a candidate. Let's dive in to find the right one. And when it happens, it blesses and it prostrates itself to Hashem, etc. And here we are coming to this moment, this big transformation, which the status of Eliezer changes. Once he accepted that rebuke with love, once he was told you are cursed, once he stood strongly to stand by the challenge and to accept such a sharp, blunt statement from his master, and continuing to do the shlichut, suddenly he's changed. He becomes the one blessed. Turn to verse 31. What does it say? He's coming to the house of Lavan. Says Pasuk Lamed Aleph, Vayomer. And Lavan said, Boy, Bruch Hashem, come, you who are blessed by God. Why are you standing outside? What does he call him? Bruch Hashem, the blessed. I thought he was cursed. Says the Chizkuni and other commentaries in the Medrash, that time, because he served Avram the Tzaddik, full faith, his status was changed from cursed to blessed. Says in the Medrash, Boy Bruch Hashem, says the Medrash in the name of Rabbi Yossi ben Reb Doiso, that even though Eliezer was Knan, but he was serving the Tzaddik Avraham, he left the status of being considered cursed, and he joined the status of Baruch, of blessed. The Zohar says even more. The Zohar says that obviously Lavan is the one who said it, but if God wouldn't accept it, the Torah wouldn't write it, says the Zohar. And the fact that it's written in the Torah, says the Zohar HaKadosh, it means that it was a malach, an angel came, and he put into Lavan's mouth the idea, the words to say, Bruch Hashem, to consider from this moment on, Lavan from the family of the ones who are blessed. He became a Baruch. He became Baruch, boy, Bruch Hashem. The Torah wouldn't have written it if it wasn't accepted. Now it's called Baruch. Why is it called Baruch? Because those harsh words that Eliezer told them, I'm sorry, that Avram told them, he called them cursed. And yet, he did not give in to it. He wasn't escaping and said, that's what you call me, I don't want anything to do with you. He took it, like they say in English, he took it like a man. And he said, you're calling me cursed? Okay. I'm not worthy, but I'm still going to continue my shlichus. It became Baruch. That's what the verse says. It became Baruch. It's like the story of the Rebbe Rashab, taking this man, telling him, I can't help you. He breaks out looking for help, pours his heart out to God, and that creates him to become a vessel, a receptacle for a bracha that earlier he couldn't receive. And same thing with Eliezer, responding so bravely with such self-nullification to Avram's statement, you are cursed. This created Eliezer and transformed them completely to become a Keli, to become Baruch. Not ready to marry, what's it called, Yitzchak, because after all, Rivka was designated for Yitzchak, like it says in the Medrash. And also maybe his daughter is still in the category of Orur. It was he, the Shliach, who personified such devotion and commitment that his status simply changed from Orur to Baruch. I saw they bring in the name of the Sfas Emes of Gur, he says even more. He says that when Noach curses Canaan, Chom, it says like this. Orur Knan, Knan is cursed. Eved avodim ielecha. He should be a surely slave to his brothers. But the Sfasema says that Orur Knan is one statement. This is the curse. Eved avodim is already the secret of changing your curse. He tells them, you want to fix the problem? If you're going to become an Eved, a servant, a devoted servant to somebody who is blessed, you are going to change and transform from being carried as Orur, and you're going to become a man of Baruch. And Eliezer actually got it. Eliezer understood it. And that's why he actually became Baruch. He became blessed. So what's the message? The message is very simple. Eliezer had every excuse to resign. I'm not doing it. You're calling me cursed. I'm serving you for so many years. Even if you don't want my daughter to your son, don't call me cursed. He's like in a situation. He's also in a situation that he realizes now very clearly that his daughter will not marry Eliezer, Yitzchak. So instead of fighting the situation, he accepts it and he's trying to do what he needs to do. And that takes him out from that status of being cursed and he becomes blessed. He looks at himself, I am a shliach. I have to fulfill my master's mission. Avram is my Rebbe, and he told me to find a shidduch. So I'm putting everything aside now, and I live in a mission, in a goal to fulfill my master's wishes. I'm going to find him the right one. Anytime a person is in a situation that he feels like he kind of stuck and he wants to maybe try to excuse himself why he can't do this, that, and the other, that's not the way. Look at Eliezer. Take your life as a shlichus, take your life as a mission, and I have to continue trucking and continue marching and continue to do what is expected for me to do. So I should be able to fulfill my mission in life. And then you're obviously meriting to become blessed, like the famous verse that is written in Parsha's Balak. Vayafoich Hashem Elokecha lecho es haklolo livrocho ki ahefcho Hashem Elokecha. God changed and transformed the curse to a blessing. He loves you. And we're all going to be meriting to see only brachas, and only simchas, and only Yeshuas, and all our children should find good shidduchim and get married properly. Kedas Moshe v'Yisrael should celebrate their weddings very soon, together with the ultimate wedding, the wedding Klal Yisrael marries God by the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, v'mehera v'yameinu mameh, speedily in our days. Amen. Thank you very much. Everybody have a wonderful good night. Please stay safe, and we'll see you B'ezrat Hashem later on in the week. All the best to you. Thank you.
Baruch.